All right, so it looks like Whitney Cummings has been trying to do a lot of damage control for her skateboarder boyfriend, Chris Cole, after he was accused of abusing his ex-wife. If you remember, I first talked about this around 5 months ago, and I thought Whitney was probably involved in trying to help silence Chris's ex, Christine. And it turns out she was even more involved than I thought, and she's basically trying to handle the whole situation for Chris. And instead of addressing it or waiting for everything to blow over, she's having to make a bunch of podcast appearances to try to restore his career and image. But obviously, that's not going too well. Like, I don't know if going on Bert Kreischer's cooking show is really going to do much for that. And you could tell Chris isn't into podcasting. Like, I doubt he wants to be doing this shit. It seems like somebody forced him to be there, which Whitney, she probably thinks this will help him move past the accusations, even though it usually just results in people in the comments talking about it, and I'm sure more people looking into it. And now to make things worse, recently Gifted Hater made a video going through all the accusations and all the evidence, which has around 200,000 views. I'll put a link to that in the description. But it looks really bad for Chris and Whitney. I mean, she's getting really desperate. Like, she's trying to do all this PR for him, and she's trying to handle it behind the scenes, and she's doing whatever she can to try to shut up Christine. But it just seems to be making things worse. Like, first she ran to Bill Cosby's lawyer to try to silence Christine, and that probably just made her want to talk about it even more and made it a bigger story. That's when I first made a video about it. But now Whitney has taken it up a notch, and you can sense the desperation here. Like, she's trying to drag Chris and Christine's kids into it and basically use them as a shield to try to get people to take down videos about the situation. And for some reason, Whitney is doing all the talking for Chris. Like, he really hasn't said anything about it, but now Whitney is spamming comments on videos about it. And she claims it's traumatizing Chris and Christine's daughter. And if the videos aren't taken down, then she'll pretty much try to cause Christine to lose custody of her daughter. So Whitney's pretending like she's just worried about the kids, but she's also basically threatening to take the daughter away from her mom. And Whitney keeps trying to reach out to their son, which is also really weird, especially because Whitney knows he wants nothing to do with her. Like, he's already corroborated his mom's accusations and said he saw his dad abuse her and supports her speaking out about it. But Whitney keeps trying to call him, probably to try to get him to turn on his mom or something. So she is just completely out of control here. And then Christine asked her to stop calling her kids. And Whitney said, okay, you can ask me that as much as you want. Like, basically, I'm going to continue doing it. It doesn't matter. And then she said what Christine is doing is child abuse.
I'm asking you not to call my children.
Okay, you can keep asking that as much as you want. Why not go to court and leave the children out of this? You know this is child abuse, right?
And even Whitney's own sister is against her and is supporting Christine. So it's just looking worse and worse for Whitney. And you could tell she's just getting really desperate and is doing whatever she can. And at this point, it seems like Chris isn't even this involved in it. Like, he doesn't even care this much. You know, clearly Whitney is orchestrating everything here. And it's funny because this isn't even the first Chris Whitney has been really close with who got accused of some serious shit. Like, she was also best friends with Chris D'Elia, which now makes me think she for sure knew what he was up to, but just didn't care until he got busted. Then she dropped him immediately. And she put out this statement where she acted like she was completely caught off guard, and she said she'll never be silent about an issue like this again. So obviously this has aged terribly. And I guess Whitney, she just really likes these creepy Chris's. Like, also the current Chris, he apparently started dating Whitney when she was like 7 months pregnant, which I think is kind of creepy, especially when Chris talks about why a bunch of people are hitting on her when she's pregnant, which he's one of those people, so he's talking about himself here.
The reason why so many people were like hitting on her was because she's out of their league, but they feel like they might be able to get it on sale.
Because she's pregnant? What the?
That might be their moment to, like, hormonal. She might make a mistake.
She might make a mistake.
She has bad judgment.
Yeah, like,
she can't run that fast.
Holy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that was his thought process. And these podcasts that he's making appearances on just feel so forced. Like with this Bradley Martin one, originally it's just supposed to be Whitney, but she dragged Chris there and then told him to get on a mic in the very beginning, which Bradley didn't mind, but it's just so obvious what Whitney's trying to do here. Like, one of the top comments on Bert Kreischer's cooking show where he had on Chris Cole says, "We really enjoy seeing the Chris Cole damage control tour." And most of the comments were just talking about the accusations. And it's just awkward as hell. Like, I'm sure skate fans are like, what is going on here? Like, Gifted Hater, he also made a video about this, which was pretty funny. But this podcast, it was just not something that needed to happen and wouldn't have happened if Chris wasn't trying to save his career. And I'm sure Whitney's the one that put this together. You know, she's friends with Bert. She probably told him to have Chris on, and she probably had to convince Chris to do it. I mean, Chris doesn't really seem like the kind of person that would want to be making a bunch of podcast appearances, especially not an appearance on Bert Kreischer's cooking show. But I guess this is what he's resorted to. You know, this is all he has left. And now he's stuck listening to Bert Kreischer have epiphanies about skateboarding.
But it was good quarantining because, like, we love skating, like, school campuses, college campuses, all that, they were empty. So we were skating everything we wanted to skate. No kickouts, no police, no nothing.
Oh, no. Oh, because in my head, I was like, why wouldn't you skate them anyway? It's cops.
Yeah, cops.
It's cop security.
But you...
BMX bikes and skateboards and stuff started flying off the shelves because
business was good.
A guy who works 9 to 5.
Oh, that's right. You guys have your own skateboards.
He got to rekindle his love for skateboarding, his or her.
Yeah, so maybe Whitney's just trying to punish him by making him go on these podcasts. Like, she also brought him on her own show a few times, and it was brutal. And surprisingly, Whitney's not even deleting the comments anymore. Like, the top ones say, I just watched Gifted Haters video on Chris Cole's abusive behavior, and I can't believe you guys are acting like everything's okay. You guys should do episodes from a small, cold jail cell, sadistic Hollywood type. And this is nauseating. Our girl's a hypocrite. I think it'd be in everybody's best interest for Whitney and Chris to address the allegations. So this whole strategy of turning Chris into a podcaster or just like Whitney Cummings' boyfriend, it doesn't seem to be going too well. And these episodes, I mean, I don't think either one of them really enjoy it too much. I mean, it's hard to watch. You know, Whitney, she tries so hard to make it seem like, oh, he's a great guy. We have great chemistry together. This is amazing. But it's so forced. I mean, it almost feels like they're acting. Like Whitney, she keeps doing this fake laugh throughout the podcast, and it's just really cringy.
Because when you say old wives' tale, I think of an old wives'
caboose.
We really finish each other's sentences, don't we, babe?
Caboose.
Okay, if you're me, what is the bee in my bonnet right now?
We haven't told you how much we like your nails, and I love your nails.
Babe, I love you so much.
Am I right?
Saying that? No, I do not care. If I shave my head and you don't notice, I don't care. I love you so much, babe. You do not need to guess things like that.
And then after they got done with all this fake shit in the beginning, Whitney, she just steamrolled the whole conversation, and it was like Chris wasn't even there. I mean, it felt like Whitney was just trying to do the podcast by herself. Like, she's not even trying to have a conversation with him. Like, Whitney was rarely listening to him, and she'd just interrupt constantly and continue on with whatever she's thinking. And it was honestly worse than Bert Kreischer. And it just felt really awkward. Like, neither one of them really wanted to do this. I mean, on a podcast, they seem to have no chemistry.
In a way that makes me want to know more.
Like a Rolling Stone, that's a big one. Once upon a time, you dressed so fine.
I think he's got tons of hits that Rod Stewart can do better.
Okay. You've gone to the finest school, all right, Miss Lonely. Oh, zing.
I did, however, have this conversation with Dave-O.
Am I dumb? Am I dumb?
Just a minute ago.
That I don't get it? Why don't I get it?
Yeah, like, Hurricane, great lyrical content.
You know what? That's kind of a jam. Yeah. I like that song, but do I like it because it was in a movie about a boxer?
Did I see that movie? No.
I love when people interview themselves. See, every time I say something I don't like, I'm going to follow up with something I like. Did I see that movie? I didn't. Why not? I just wasn't interested. Do I need to see it at this point? That's anyone's guess. Blowing in the Wind. Is this his biggest song? How many roads must a man walk down before you
Forever Young's good.
Before you...
But Rod Stewart crushed it.
Is that a song about me? How many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand?
You know what? It's like, even if he writes great, the sound of it doesn't speak to me. That
How
being
many years?
said, I love tons of bad things.
Are these rhetorical questions? How many years can a mountain exist before it was washed to the sea? Had this stuff not been discovered yet, so it was profound? Because there are answers to a lot of his questions.
Those answers.
How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? I say it all the time. Whatever we resist most, I'm sure next year I'll have a Bob Dylan tattoo. You know me. I go.
Not if I can help it.
Huh?
I will try my best.
There's something about this that grinds my gears. Lynch thing where everyone's like, he's such a genius. I'm like, tell me what the movie meant. Tell me what the movie meant. Explain it to me. You have no idea what you're saying.
But
he's pranking you.
But if somebody wants to explain it to me, I would love to hear it.
The same. Like, no one can. I haven't met someone yet. Pat.
So smash that subscribe button.
Don't do any of those things.
Okay.
We don't do followers or viewers. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how either one of them thought this was a good idea. I mean, it seems like Whitney, she doesn't want to listen to him, and I doubt he really wants to be there. You know, it seems like both of them don't really want to be doing this, but Whitney probably thinks this is helping his career somehow. Like at the beginning of this podcast, she's like, man, the fans loved you on here last time. You did such a great job. So maybe she's trying to convince him he could be a podcaster or a comedian. Like the only time she acknowledges him really is either to tell him she loves him or to laugh uncontrollably at something he said. And it's just kind of patronizing. It's like, oh, you're doing such a great job here. Look how much fun we're having. Meanwhile, she's not listening to him like 70% of the time. So I think she tries to make up for that by just laughing way over the top at stuff he says when she finally does pay attention to him. And she just sounds deranged.
It's the equivalent of finding a knock-knock joke written on a napkin in the 50s.
It's exactly what it is. That's exactly.
It's also funny too because they're trying to find him, and that's the whole thing. Find this guy.
Or the idea that you have an invention, right? Like if I steal your invention or your, let's say your Shakespeare, and I take it, then I'm like, I'm going to take all the credit. And someone's like, write another one. And I'm like, shit. I'd have to keep you hostage in the basement, you know?
Might be how it works.
It's so funny to me, the idea of someone being like, I'm going to kill this person, like take over take credit. And then they have to keep.
And then they break the first light bulb and they're like, shit. Yeah, can you make another one?
The idea that they're like, this isn't that hard. I'm going to take credit for it. And they break it and they can't put it back together. They're like, Edison was a genius, you guys. I am trying to figure out what he did. And it is so hard. I really regret smashing him in the face with an ox
we have to find the people who did this.
Whoever murdered this man.
And they're like, I've created a charity to find this person.
Guys, this guy,
yeah.
We have to find the person.
Clean the streets up.
We have to find the person who did this. We can't because it's dark out and there's no lights.
The Edison curse.
We could find the person who did this if only there was illumination in the street.
Yeah.
Look, I'm open to...
And there are a bunch of random cuts during it too. So this just did not go well. These podcast appearances have been a disaster, but this is what Whitney's up to. She's Chris Cole's PR agent now. But let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And if you want extra content from me, make sure you check out my Patreon account. I post a lot on there. There's probably over 110 exclusive videos. And if you want to hear about the time Tim Dillon humbled Whitney Cummings and gave her a reality check, or if you want to hear about how Joe Rogan is sold out and is just delusional now, or if you want to hear about Wes Watson beating up one of his haters at the gym recently, all that plus over 100 other videos are over on Patreon. Make sure you check it out. There'll be a link in the description.